this is a spoiler-free vlog.
What are we opening first?
Definitely starting to move a lot quicker now. Hello, welcome to another reading vlog. This week, I'm determined to finish The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Last week, I had lofty goals of finishing the whole book in a span of a couple of days, and I just don't know why I thought that I would be able to do that. This book has 1,200 pages, so I got halfway through the book, which is not too bad, and if you want to hear my initial thoughts on the story, you can definitely check out the previous reading blog, which I will link below. But basically, The Way of Kings is a super popular fantasy book. It's part of the Stormlight Archive, which is a popular fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson. I had this book on my TBR for years and years and years, and I just needed the push to read it. So my cousin had a physical copy of the book and gave it to me to read. Now I feel obligated to finish the book so that I can return this to him. Also, I was just like reading this book for a couple of months, and every time I had picked it up again, I was like, why did I wait so long to start reading it? Like, that's the feeling I had over the weekend. I've just been hesitant to pick it up every time I put it down because of just how big it is. But I do have some extra time off this week because of the holidays, so I'm hoping with this extra time I can get through the second half of this book. So in case you are not aware of what The Way of Kings is about, don't worry, I honestly didn't even know what the book was about until like 400 pages in. But basically what I have learned is that this book is about a few different main characters as they try to navigate their personal struggles in the time of this major war. This war was triggered by the murder of the king of this kingdom. To avenge the death of their king, the kingdom went to war with the enemy people who had sent an assassin to kill their king. Now this war has been dragging on for years and years, and there's no real progress, but the high princes of the kingdom have somehow made a sport of the war and are exploiting it and making money from it. That's basically the gist of the book. I don't really want to share too much more because I'm afraid of giving spoilers, and this is a spoiler-free vlog. So yeah, I'm really excited to read the hopefully last part of the book. The book is divided into different parts. In between each part, there's interludes. So I just finished part 2 and I'm about to start part 3. I do have to wake up early for work tomorrow, so I'm just gonna read as much as possible before my bedtime, and then we shall come back from work and read more.
What are we opening first?
This is so fun. This is actually super helpful. The mochi in the middle.
It is pretty good. You should try it.
The guilty face.
Open your gifts. Where's your gift, Ollie? Oh. Wow! This is so cute. Hello. Okay, so reading update. I'm about 720 pages into the book now, and the plot is definitely thickening. I feel like the first half of the book was a lot of exposition and world building, but that was very necessary for us to understand everything that's happening now. We're following more of the main characters. Specifically, we're following the noblewoman a little bit more. If you didn't see my previous reading vlog, I had talked about how we're following kind of 4 main characters, and one of them is this noblewoman who is trying to save her family's name and money, and she's kind of the only female perspective that we have in this book. There's like a few other female point of views, but really she's like the only main one. On that note, I have noticed that there is a lot of distinction between what is a masculine art and what is a feminine art in this book, or just generally like what is considered feminine and what is masculine. For example, in this book, reading and writing is more of a feminine art. And there was this one part of the book that was like jam is a feminine food. Something that I had noted at the end of my last reading vlog is that there's a lot of religious subtext in this book. And when I was reading the first and second parts of the book, it was a lot more subtle, but now it's very obvious and in your face. The book is definitely getting a lot more philosophical, and there's a lot of discussion in this book that characters have about what is right versus wrong, and whether that's something that the characters can decide from their kind of lived experiences, or if it's something that they should kind of follow some sort of doctrine to guide them. I find that kind of interesting, just knowing that the author, Brandon Sanderson, is Mormon. So it's interesting to know that he's written these characters who are really questioning their worldviews, just knowing that he himself is religious. Something that I'm enjoying about this third part of the book is that there's a lot more explanation about how the magic system works. It's interesting to see how that is starting to play into the story a little bit more, and how characters are kind of discovering magic that they can wield, or the power that they have. I do really like how the story is set in some sort of medieval time, like there's a kingdom and kings and high princes, yet the characters seem to think that they are living in a modern time. Like they reference things that happened in ancient times, and they have new technologies that incorporate past ancient magics. So in their heads, they feel like they're very technologically advanced. But from my perspective as a reader, it's funny to kind of see that, because their society in my head is a little bit outdated with like the king and landlords. But I guess we have landlords still. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep chugging along, gonna see how far I can get into the book. I started reading during my lunch at work, and I think that's a good way, is just to like knock out like 20 pages in my 30-minute break. So I think I'm going to keep doing that so that I can hopefully by the end of tomorrow night, which is Friday, get maybe to like page 900. That would be good, because then I only have about 300 pages left, which is actually a lot, but I think I can finish that during the weekend. Hello. Okay, so reading update. I'm about 900 pages into the book now. I just started part 4, and the plot is definitely starting to move a lot quicker now. We were in part 3, definitely learning a lot more about the different religions in this world. There were a lot of kind of like tedious details, a lot of like philosophical musings, so that was just kind of slow to read through. But now we have kind of moved on from that, and there's a lot more fighting and a lot more violence and blood. Like definitely if this was adapted into a movie or TV show, it would be rated R. We are starting to see the characters use more of their power, or just kind of discover more magic that they can wield, so that is really cool to see, just finally seeing more of the magic system being used. I was thinking that because this is the first book in this series, I definitely feel like this book is going to end in a cliffhanger, and there's going to be a lot of like loose ends. So I'm just kind of going into this last section of the book knowing that I will probably want to pick up the second book right away, because this will end in a cliffhanger. Okay, so last night I finished The Way of Kings, and it definitely ended with a lot of plot twists and loose ends like I expected it to. There was one particular plot twist that I actually jumped from and I wrote down on my notes, whoa, that plot twist was crazy. I will say overall I'm not dying to read the next book. I feel like I definitely want to take a break to kind of just digest what I just read. I think the book was a solid 4 stars. The pacing was just a little bit off, like I had mentioned in the first 2/3 of the book. It was just so much exposition, and I feel like we didn't get to a lot of the action until the last 150 pages of the book. And considering this is a 1,200 page book, that's not a lot of action. I also feel like because there were so many plot twists and kind of loose ends, I feel like I never had a good sense of closure or any moment where I was oh, this book is very clever, right? Because there's still so much about this universe that I don't understand. I think that, this being the first book, that means that there is a lot of potential for the next books to kind of really blow my mind. But I think there just needed to be a little bit more answers in this book, because otherwise this really just felt like one really long intro for this book series. Definitely recommend this book. If this has been a book that's been on your TBR for a while, I think it deserves a chance. I think compared to the other Brandon Sanderson books that I've read, Mistborn specifically, because that's one of my all-time favorite books, this definitely I think is not as good as that book. I mean, the plot is just different, Mistborn, if you're familiar with that book, or if you're not, it is a heist, and I feel like it's always interesting and engaging to read about a heist, whereas this book was a lot of political intrigue and world building. I also think that generally, even though I was wanting more action than this book, I don't really tend to love books that are just about war and battles, so I think maybe that's just another personal reason why I didn't rate this book higher. The end of this book definitely had a lot of good quotes that I liked. I noted a few different quotes that I wanted to share. One quote in particular I feel really encapsulates my feelings about this book. So it goes, "The purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon." And boy, I do have a lot of questions about this book. Another quote that I liked was something along the lines of, "The greatest talent a man can have is novelty." And the final quote that I had noted down is, "And so does the destination matter, or is it the path we take? I declare that no accomplishment has substance nearly as great as the road used to achieve it. We are not creatures of destinations." I feel like that quote really summarizes one of the main themes in this story, that it's not about the destination or the ending, it's about the journey and the characters we meet along the way and how we get to the end. Overall, I would definitely recommend this book. Don't let the size of the book deter you. If you have read this book or if you want to read this book, let me know your thoughts. And if you have any other book recommendations, definitely let me know. I want to start reading a lot more in this coming year and hopefully continue to do more reading vlogs. So any book recommendations are super helpful. If you have any nonfiction recommendations specifically, that would be really cool. I've been reading a lot more nonfiction and memoirs in the past few years. And even though it was super nice to read a fantasy book, I think I just like learning about people's kind of real experiences and just about topics that I'm not too familiar with. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.